Welcome back to my channel. Once labeled useless and rejected for being too kind, what seemed like the end of the journey for a dog who wasn't fit for the police was, in fact, just the beginning of an extraordinary story that no one could have imagined. Subscribe this channel. This is the story of a dog who, after being dismissed from a training program, found an unexpected place by the side of one of Hollywood's biggest stars. A story of rejection, hope, and an ending that will make you believe in the unexpected. It all began with a dream. A dog, full of energy and hope, who saw in every step a promise for the future. Police training was more than just a job to him. It was a mission, a chance to be useful, to make a difference. From the moment he was born, everyone noticed his spirited personality. He ran tirelessly, wagging his tail at everyone he met, his eyes brimming with confidence. When he was selected for the police training program, it seemed like the beginning of a fairy tale. In the first few days, everything was new. The other dogs sat obediently, firm and attentive, while he, eager to please, tried his best, but was different. When the trainer commanded stay, he would take a few steps back, look into the trainer's face, and without hesitation, jump excitedly, hoping for a pat or a game. The serious silence of the training sessions was constantly interrupted by his cheerful barks. Weeks passed. The other dogs advanced, earning praise and progressing to more difficult tasks. He, however, remained behind. His eyes were fixed on the others, how they stopped on command, how they earned rewards, and how they performed flawlessly. He tried to imitate them, staying still for a few seconds as if questioning, "Am I doing it right now?" But it was only a matter of time before his tail started to wag. Or he got up, distracted by something that caught his attention, a butterfly or a bird nearby. The whispers began quietly at first. They were mere murmurs exchanged between trainers. "He's not fit for the job," some said. "He has no discipline," others added. Soon, the whispers became sharper, cutting like blades. "He's not good enough. He'll be dismissed soon." While he didn't understand the weight of those words, he understood the looks, the pity in their eyes, the lack of encouragement that once surrounded him. His attempts to seek attention through a lick or a cheerful gaze were met with sighs or averted eyes. Yet, he kept trying. Giving up was not in his nature. The rejections piled up as he failed obedience tests. The other dogs followed commands with military precision, sitting, staying still, advancing, retreating at the exact moment. Meanwhile, he would hear the command stay, remain still for a few seconds, then walk towards the trainer, wagging his tail, hoping for affection. The final test came, another obedience challenge. The other dogs had advanced to high-performance tests while he, as always, stood still, waiting for a hint, a kind word, anything to guide him. The silence that followed was more crushing than any shout. And then came the inevitable decision. The lead trainer approached, knelt down, and removed the temporary police uniform he was wearing. A simple collar replaced it, marking the moment when everything seemed to end. He didn't know what was happening. He only knew that it felt like the end. The trainer didn't offer warm words or even a smile. He left the training center without fanfare, the gate closing behind him. His tail wagged slowly as he crossed through it, almost like an apology. Outside, the world felt vast and empty. He didn't know where to go. The weight of rejection was invisible, but it felt heavy, pressing on his spirit. The world, it seemed, had no place for him. He still wagged his tail, but now, with a certain shyness that no one could ignore. Days passed, and with each failed attempt to find acceptance, he walked into a rescue shelter, a modest place full of other animals who had also been abandoned or rejected. There, he was no longer seen as incapable. Instead, he was just another soul waiting for a second chance. At the shelter, he wasn't the strongest or the most eye-catching. While the other dogs jumped excitedly at visitors, barking and trying to impress, he simply sat quietly in the corner, his eyes hopeful but resigned. His tail still wagged slowly, as if saying, "I'm still here." He didn't demand attention. He didn't need to be noticed. At night, when the shelter was quiet and the other dogs slept, he would sit at the bars of his enclosure, looking out into the world. No anger, no resentment, just a quiet, unspoken hope that one day someone would notice him. He didn't know it then, but sometimes hitting rock bottom is just the beginning of a new journey. Life at the shelter moved along as it always did. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but his quiet patience spoke volumes to those who truly noticed him. He didn't know it then, but sometimes hitting rock bottom is just the beginning of a new journey. Life at the shelter moved along as it always did. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, but his quiet patience spoke volumes to those who truly noticed him. Then, as fate would have it, a charity event was organized at the shelter. Visitors came to take photos and hopefully adopt the animals, and among them was a man who would change everything. Keanu Reeves, known for his love of dogs, strolled through the shelter, observing the animals. When he stopped in front of the dog's enclosure, something sparked. The dog, sensing that this moment might be different, looked up at Keanu and wagged his tail, shy but full of love. Keanu knelt down and extended his hand. The dog, sensing kindness, took a step forward, bringing his nose close to Keanu's hand, standing still as if saying, "Thank you for noticing me." Keanu, moved by the dog's unique presence, looked into his eyes and smiled. "There's something special about him," Keanu murmured to a shelter worker. "He's not like the others." That day, Keanu decided to adopt the dog, not because he needed to be tough or disciplined, but because he simply needed to be himself. And that, Keanu knew, was exactly what the world needed. A few days later, the dog found himself in a completely new world, the backstage of a film set. The world of cameras, lights, and action was all around him, and he seemed to fit in perfectly. While actors rehearsed, the dog ran between the sets, charming everyone with his friendly nature and that ever-present wagging tail. Keanu didn't bring him to the set just as a companion. He brought him as part of the team. On set, the dog became more than just an animal in the background. He was a constant source of joy, offering sweet gazes or small gestures of affection whenever someone felt tired or stressed. Slowly but surely, he became the most beloved member of the crew. They had called him useless before, but now, behind the scenes, he was the soul of the production. He didn't need to change who he was. His kindness, once seen as a weakness, became his greatest strength. It was the very thing that made him shine in a world where love and lightness were in short supply. The dog, who had once been dismissed, had now found his place in Hollywood, a symbol of love, joy, and hope. Keanu, who carried an aura of simplicity and kindness, treated the dog like a true companion. "He's my partner," Keanu would say, smiling. And soon, the dog began to appear in more and more scenes, not because anyone told him to, but because he was there, always present, always ready to be part of the moment. During breaks, he would play with the crew, and even the most serious professionals couldn't help but smile at his antics. "He's not a regular dog," someone commented. "He seems to understand people." One day, during a key scene, the director decided to include the dog. even though he wasn't a trained acting animal. The camera rolled, and the dog simply stayed next to Keanu, looking at him with the most sincere eyes. The scene turned out perfect. The director, surprised, later commented, "He brought something we can't teach. He brought truth." The dog was no longer just a backstage companion. He had become part of the story. Soon, photos of the dog and Keanu circulated online, and the public fell in love. Fans wanted to know more about the dog who seemed so happy, so genuine. "He's the real star of the set," they said. And it was true. He had become a symbol, a reminder that sometimes kindness is what the world needs most. Now, he had everything he had ever dreamed of, a place where he was loved for who he was, with no demands or impossible expectations. He was simply himself, the dog who never gave up on kindness, even when the world seemed to have no place for him. Once called useless, he had proven that love and kindness are never in vain. He had found his true purpose, standing alongside Keanu Reeves, a symbol of the power of being who we truly are, even when the world tells us we're not enough. No longer just a rejected dog, he had become a star. And his story reminds us all that sometimes life's rejections are just the push we need to find our true calling. If you like this video, then subscribe this channel. Also, like this video.